New to Canyon View and wondering what we're all about? What Canyon View stands for? Where do we stand firm and where do we leave things open to interpretation? If you're considering making Canyon View your home church, we invite you to Gateway. This class, taught by Kirk, will fill you in on any questions you may have. Sign up online at canyonviewchurch.com.
Hello, Canyon View family. I'm not with you guys this weekend because we're actually in Colorado Springs celebrating my mother-in-law, who is a saint, her 80th birthday. But I wanted to be able to report to you guys that we got the first month's report from all of the church planters in South Sudan, and there has been a total of 1,018 new converts in the past month since they've gone into their villages. So I think that's everybody say hooray for what's happening in South Sudan. I also want to remind everyone about the Robbie Dawkins Conference coming up this week. It's Thursday night, Friday night, and Saturday. And the great thing about this is Robbie is going to teach us to have the heart that the Lord has for all people, and he wants us to learn how to do the stuff. And so I encourage you to come. It's free, and we would love for all of us to be trained to basically go do what Jesus commissioned us to do. I want you to watch this so that you get kind of the flavor of the style of teaching that you will encounter over the weekend, and that you can get the heart of who Robbie is. So here's Robbie Dawkins.
Be part of it. We started this Christian rock band and started playing and doing all this stuff. And I'll never forget. I'll get through my young years by just finishing with this part of the story. But I remember we were out on this. We had gotten this Methodist church. Please understand, we completely stunk. We were a horrible band. We couldn't play very good. But yet we were we worshiped with all our hearts. And this is before worship got really, hip and cool, and we were trying to make it as hip and cool and rocked out as possible, and we would just worship God, and nobody would come to hear us, but we would still do it. And my mom was our light man. She'd be back there. And so we got this gig, playing for the United Methodist Church downtown, and we were like, this is it. It's a recording contract after this, you understand? And so we were set up on the front line. I would preach. Now you have to understand, I was 14 years old. And I would get up and I would preach, and and so we were there, and I had this drum riser made out of scaffolding. So I was like 8 feet high. So I'm up there playing, and I stop and I start preaching. And I'm like, Jesus wants to be in your life. He loves you. And today, Jesus is calling you. And I'm just going to town from my drum throne. I got this mic hanging down. And I'm just going, all of a sudden, I feel the scaffolding shaking. And I look over to the side, and there's this guy climbing up the scaffolding. I thought, well, maybe this is some dude bringing me some water or something. And I just kept preaching. And all of a sudden, I started hearing him cussing and hollering out this profanity. And I looked, and our guitar player was like, and so this guy's screaming, and I kept feeling him touch my head like this, and I was like, I got the mic, dude. Good luck. They're hearing me, not you. And I looked back, and I saw my mother at the light board going, and she starts doing this, she goes, and I was like, man, the Holy Spirit is hitting my mom right now. Look at the power from this preaching, impacting her. And she was like, oh. And I'm like, more, right there. It turns out the dude had a gun to my head. And I didn't know it because I just kept going. And he's got a gun to my head. That's why everybody was in shock. Well, finally the pastor came up and he just hollers out. He goes, all right, this is over. This stops now. And he shut it down and told, we had about 100, people from the neighborhood come out. We were on the front lawn of the church. And and then later they were telling me, they're like, dude, did you not see the guy had a gun sticking to your head the whole time? And I said, no, I thought this was like the most powerful preaching of anybody had heard from a 14-year-old in this moment. And what ended up happening, though, is that the pastor was like, we're never doing this again. But let me tell you what happened out of that. That guy, he was drunk when he came there. And what happened was he went home, and he came to the church the next day. It was a Saturday night. He came to the church the next day, gave his life to Christ, And he says, I was shocked that that boy on the drums was fearless and had no fear and kept preaching without any fear whatsoever. Now, you have to understand, as we were breaking down when they told me he had a gun to my head, I had to go change my pants, man. I mean, I was completely unaware of what had taken place. But the Lord spoke to me that day, that next week, after we got the report back that the man had actually come and given his life to Christ. And he says, listen, I want you to live as if you can't die. I want you to live as if every day for the rest of your life, that all your days are in my hands. And I want you to live that way. I don't want you to live in fear. I don't want you to live in reaction. I want you to live as if every day is in my hands.